Hello Home Slices, it's Kiara with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 10 Episode 14 titled Barcelona Breakdown. Now before we get into this Barcelona breakdown, I just want to apologize for publishing these videos pretty late. I have been doing my best to try to put the videos out on time, and a part of that has been me kind of being lazy and just doing the videos live and posting them to YouTube immediately. But last week or 2 weeks ago, I had an issue with the video that I published live being deleted, and something like that happened a few weeks ago. So I figured I would stop being kind of lazy and start back using my good camera with my good lighting that costs a lot of money, and go ahead and put out this video the way that I'm supposed to put out the video. So I'm back in front of my camera. The reason why I'm doing this video late is because I have been doing quite a bit of traveling over the past week. I visited some family in Houston, then I flew from Houston to Seattle for the weekend to do a graduate school interview because I applied to go to graduate school in Seattle. And then during that time on my way back to Houston, my connecting flight was delayed for over 4 hours, so I didn't get much sleep. But the next day I had to drive from Houston to Austin to do another graduate school interview and drive back to Houston the same day. So I've kind of been all over the place. And then while I was in Houston, I tried to spend as much time with my family as possible, and these videos just kind of didn't fit into that time. So thank you guys for being patient. I'm out here trying to do things, have graduate school interviews. I was in Nashville a few weeks ago doing the same thing, and there's one more school that I have applied to that hasn't invited me for an interview just yet, but we're going to keep our fingers crossed and we're going to get into this review. I have a lot of notes on this, so I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible, and I should probably just read my notes verbatim. So let's get started. Now it is day 2 in Barcelona, and Eva is doing a coffee run. I kind of don't understand why, but as a person who used to be a barista at a coffee shop, I realize that some people are very dependent on coffee and they need it to have a great day. So I guess that's what she was trying to do to lift the spirits of all the crap that happened the previous day. Sheree apparently hates her room, and she claims that Tyrone, who is in prison, is sleeping better than Sheree is. Now I would rather sleep in a basement in Barcelona than in a bunker in a prison. I don't know. That's, Sheree's comparison, not mine. No one really slept well, but apparently at 3 o'clock in the morning, the girls had a little twerk session, and Cynthia feels more and more like a lesbian every day. And Portia and Cynthia are okay now after the little disagreement they had the day before. And now Marlo is also okay with Candy today. So a twerk session heals all for these girls, apparently. Now they talk about the issue with Brielle and Kim, and Candy thinks that Kim should tell Brielle to stay out of it. And I agree, because even though Brielle is technically grown, Brielle is not of the same generation as the other women are with her mother, and so it's out of her place for her to be involved in their drama. So I agree that Kim should tell Brielle to back off. They discussed the shade that Brielle was throwing with, Nene not having a mirror, and I don't know if that was on purpose or if she just hadn't gotten in the mirror that she wanted. When you import fancy things from fancy places, sometimes it takes a while for things to go, get put in. She had a housewarming, and sometimes in housewarmings, things are not all the way finished. Hence Sheree's basement and Kenya's house, So that's just the way it goes sometimes. But anyway, Cynthia thinks that Sheree should speak up and let Kim know that it was not okay for her to, send that nasty text message and hold on to videos and photos of, things involving Nene so that she could, put them out there on Mad Day. And Sheree, for the first time in ever, feels like she has to mind her business. And it's like, Sheree is the type of person who is like, I only report on the news and I don't have an opinion on it. And that just bothers me a little bit, because if you are going to be a bone carrier, to me, it's like, you should at least speak up when a bone that you're carrying is not right. And not just to be messy, but to tell the people that you care about, or people who are supposed to be your friends, that they need to be accountable for their actions. So that bothers me about Sheree. But I don't understand how she's so messy but chooses not to intervene when so when someone, Kim in this instance, is especially wrong. Now, anyway, Eva felt like the Missy Elliott comment that Shamia made was very inappropriate, and I 100% agree. As a new person in the group, I do not feel that, because Shamia claimed that she felt okay asking Eva those questions in front of the group because that's how, you know, intense everybody is in each other's business in the group. But I'm like, Shamia, you are barely in the group yourself. You're kind of a friend of the show, and the only reason you're a friend of the show is because you have a good attachment to two of the cast members, Kandi and Portia. But as far as being a part of the group, I don't think the other girls have necessarily accepted Shamia as a part of the group. So I don't think that she can speak for the group and say this is how much we are in each other's business. I feel like, again, I said it last week, that Shamia does not know all of the girls enough and have formed good enough bonds with all of the women in the group to speak up as often and as, you know, messy as she is. But moving on, I feel like Eva has every right to feel offended or uncomfortable by the girls getting in her business. And Eva says, if I bring it up, that means I'm okay with it. But if you bring it up, I don't want to talk about it, basically. And I mean, that's the way it is in real life, right? I mean, if you bring up something that's my business that I don't want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about it. But if I bring it up, that means I have a level of comfortability with it. And, you know, the other girls are like, okay, well, you can't ask Eva nothing, whatever. But they try to encourage Eva to prepare for being bombarded with questions, because that's just the way things happen when you're in, you know, a bigger limelight. And Marlo throws shade about Portia having to backpedal about lies that she's told. And then Marlo isn't even woman enough to repeat what she said, and she has Kandi do it for her. So here's the problem that I have. We all know what Portia did was wrong. We all know that Portia has attempted to apologize, and a lot of people feel as if Portia is not taking a large enough portion of the responsibility for what happened with, you know, Kandi and Phaedra and the rape allegations the previous year. The problem is that issue was between Kandi, Phaedra, and Portia. Phaedra's not on the show, so right now it's between Kandi and Portia. And I do not feel that the other women in the group or the auxiliary members like Marlo have the right to use what happened between Portia and Kandi as ammunition. And I also don't feel that Portia necessarily has to apologize to the other girls, because she technically kind of didn't even do anything to them. But I just feel bad that Portia can't really catch a break in this situation, even though I feel like she's trying to make an effort. But moving on, like I said, Marlo has Kandi do her dirty work and repeat it, and they give an example of Portia backpedaling, but Portia doesn't feel that she backpedals, which we all know isn't true. But you know, when you're on the defensive, you just, you know, whatever, defend yourself like that. Minnie comes along and gives them the best news they've had in a while, that she found a hotel for them. Now, the 50-cent challenge, they talk about that once they're on the bus, and Marlo opts out of the 50-cent challenge because she was shaking her raw naked behind the previous night during their little twerk session. So okay, Cynthia wants to tongue kiss a girl, and so Cynthia tries to kiss Kandi, but Kandi is done kissing girls in the Real Housewives of Atlanta crew. And then Sheree doesn't want to be sloppy seconds, and then Portia volunteers to be the dirty third. And I thought that was kind of cool, particularly because Portia is the only other single person on the bus. It should be Portia that Cynthia is kissing if she has to kiss anyone. And Cynthia's all overthinking it, and she's like, well, how do I kiss you? Do we do tongue? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. So apparently they try to kiss, and Cynthia put her tongue in Portia's mouth, and Portia was like, oh no, she put her tongue in my mouth. I guess they hadn't really agreed on the extent of the kiss. They go and see, you know, some of the sights in Barcelona. They go to the Arco de Triunfo. We're gonna say that. They see a man that's levitating, which is pretty impressive. Cynthia wrote on her shirt and added her name to the list of all of the supermodels. And Shamia and Portia are so focused on that they're not paying attention to the instructions on how to drive those go-karts properly. And so they end up crashing into somebody else who's doing the go-karts, and they should have been paying attention. And Portia claims that she had faulty brakes, whatever. But moving on, they had a good time and nobody was injured, thank goodness. Now next they go to the Boqueria, which looks like a giant market / restaurant, which is super cool. What it looks like is that women can order food off of a menu that uses ingredients from the different shops that are in the Boqueria. Not really sure if that's true, but it's like a super cool concept, and that's pretty awesome. Now moving on, they're eating delicacies, and Portia backpedals from her vegan diet and decides to eat octopus. Now, if you call breaking your diet backpedaling, I'm a backpedaler, okay? I've been on plenty of diets that I didn't go through with totally, and you know, if that's backpedaling, then you can call it backpedaling. But Portia was in a new place. She wanted to try some octopus, and she did. So whatever you want to call it, you can. But I think they're being very hard on her for no reason. Moving on, Sheree says she hasn't seen, they talk about the roach incident, and Sheree says she hasn't seen anyone with a roach in a long time, and then they play back the roach that she had on her porch at Chateau Sheree, and that was so shady, but it was hilarious. At least it was on Sheree's patio or balcony, and not inside of Sheree's house. So, but it still was very funny. So she knows what a roach looks like at her own house. Nene says that she will not talk to Kim about it. She won't have a conversation about it. And I don't know necessarily that I would either. The last conversation that Nene and Kim had together did not end well at the end of that crazy psychic reading thing that happened a few episodes ago. And I just think Kim and Nene are past the point where the banter between them, the nastiness between them has gotten to a point where it's irreconcilable, which means that Kim doesn't need to be involved in this show and never needs to come back. But moving on, Nene feels that Sheree and Portia should have spoken up on Nene's behalf, and but at the time they didn't necessarily know that Kim was going to put that text message out to all the girls at the table. Now Nene wants to know if Sheree is going to talk to Kim, and Sheree is. But Sheree says, oh, I'm going to report to her everything that's being said here. Like, she's like, is blatantly saying that I am going to carry this bone. But as far as having an opinion on it, the answer is no. And I don't like that. She feels as if she talks to Kim about the situation, that she is going to be speaking on the way that Kim should be raising her children, and nobody can tell you how to raise your children. And while I agree that people should not tell you how to raise your children, this is not about your children. Brielle may have taken the original video, but Kim is the one that spread it to all of the girls and used it as ammunition. So if you talk to Kim about Kim's actions, you're not telling her how to raise her child. Sheree is using that as an excuse to not take a stance, because once you take a stance against somebody, they won't trust you anymore, and you can't collect dirt from them. So you got to stay neutral if you want to be a bone collector, and that's exactly what Sheree is doing. Now, moving on, I laughed when Nene called Sheree Wigfield. I thought that was funny. But Portia says that she didn't know about the video. But Kim, we saw at the end of the conversation, before Kim abruptly hung up the phone, she did say that she was going to find that video. But nobody knew that she was going to send it to all the girls and that it would blow up the way that it blew up. So I am going to give Portia a pass, because not only do I feel like everybody is being hard on her, I feel like she honestly did not know that things would blow up to be this much out of proportion. Now, Nene says that Kim kept pics in case of Mad Day, and that was very calculated, and that Kim just really isn't a good person, and we all know that she's pretty much not. And Nene was like, well, you're right. Okay, Kim was right about one thing. We did have roaches in our house, and their names were Kim, Croy, and Brielle. I thought that was funny. But moving on, Marlo is trying to see if Portia is going to talk to Kim, but Portia says that she and Kim are just getting to know each other, which is kind of true. Portia is not as cool with Kim as Sheree is, and I don't necessarily think that Portia has the rapport with Kim to try to check her on her actions. And I think that's what Portia is trying to say. She just can't say it as eloquently as I can, you know, because she's, you know, caught up in the moment and everybody's emotions are high, and Marlo is drunk. Marlo is drunk. This is not the first time this season that we have seen Marlo wasted. She was wasted at Portia's little vegan no beef dinner party, and you know, I have noticed that. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. Are things going on in Marlo's life that she's trying to escape from via alcohol? I don't know. But moving on, after Portia says she's not going to talk to Kim about it, then Marlo reports to Nene and says, oh, Portia says she's not going to talk to her. Now, they find out that Sheree already knew about the video regarding Brielle, you know, taking the video of the roaches. Now, this is where the timeline kind of got fuzzy for me, but I think I understand it now. When we saw that Kim showed Sheree the Snapchat video of the bugs in Nene's house, I don't think that it had blown up in the media necessarily. I think that it blew up in the media when they were in Barcelona. That's what I'm under the impression that the timeline is. But moving on, Marlo is taking things too far. She's yelling, she's screaming, she's very drunk or tipsy, and she's talking about something that has nothing to do with her. And that's the problem that I have. If I have an issue with somebody else, you cannot use that issue as ammunition against me in an argument, because it has nothing to do with you. And that's what I'm sick of these girls doing to Portia. Cynthia tried to use it against Portia, and it had nothing to do with Cynthia, and now Marlo is doing the same thing. Now, Portia and Marlo are going back and forth basically about nothing, which is annoying to me. Marlo brings up the small doormat at Portia's large door, and she claims that even though I felt a certain way about it, I would never be messy to the point where I would take a picture of it and use it as ammunition against you. And Portia was like, you even saying that is messy, which it is. Now, Cynthia said that Marlo can't come over because she has IKEA furniture, and then Candy brings up how when I said that Marlo was always negative, nobody wanted to back me up, and we see Marlo being negative right now. And then he said some real things, and I felt, usually I'm not necessarily here from what Nene says because I find her to be more like of a funny type of energy, but I felt like she was being so real when she was saying that she was basically disgusted about how some of these women go into each other's homes and have the audacity to open up their mouths about the decorations and all of the things that go into having a house and furnishing that house and keeping the house clean, and, you know, having a $2 million house, and you can't have a $2 million house with $2 furniture. And you know, the fact that these working women would talk about what's in each other's house, it just really doesn't make sense to her. And I was so, you know, in agreement with Nene on that. Now, Portia starts to get upset because they're ragging on her doormat that her mother gave her. Now, I personally probably wouldn't be upset considering how her mother is still alive and all that stuff. I kind of don't understand why she was upset, but she has the right to be upset about something like that, you know, maybe feeling embarrassed by it or something along those lines, but whatever. Marlo then says that, oh, Portia, you weren't crying about the lie that you told. What does that have to do with the doormat or any of the things that you all have been talking about regarding Kim and Nene? Absolutely freaking nothing. Why does Marlo keep bringing up this thing that had nothing to do with her on a season where she was barely even on the show? If she was on the, yeah, she was on the show a little bit the previous season. But why? First off, Portia did cry about the lie she told because she cried at the reunion. So don't even go there, Marlo. Marlo's just getting on my nerves, absolutely 100%, you know, absolutely. Marlo, like I said, was wasted, and she was bringing up things that have nothing to do with her. She takes the fan out of Portia's hands. I don't think Portia was trying to use it that way. I think she was just gesticulating with it and felt threatened by it, but the way Marlo forcefully took the fan out of her hand, that kind of escalated things, and I'm glad that Portia didn't hit her, even though my first reaction might have been to hit her. But moving on, let me know if you think that this whole situation is karma for the way that Portia reacted to the way that Kenya was pointing something in her face, because that's the way that Candy and some other girls felt about it. Now, Eva felt like Marlo was provoking Portia, and fortunately Portia didn't fall for it, but I do agree with Eva. I feel like Marlo was really taking it there, trying to make Portia feel bad about a situation that had nothing to do with Marlo. Like, Marlo needs to go off the show probably just as bad as Kim does. Now, do I feel that Portia is not owning up to what happened with Candy? Only partially, but who cares? Portia has apologized so many times, and I understand her frustration with these women not letting her, you know, get past it. Marlo is talking mad trash about Portia and how fake she is, when Marlo is just as fake as Portia. Portia knows something about Marlo that Nene told her, but Portia says she's not going to repeat it. Marlo is basically relentless and tipsy, and Cynthia's wig almost gets caught, almost gets pulled off after it gets caught in the door once they all arrive home. Nene calls Greg, Candy calls Todd, and Todd was right about them living out their lesbian and bisexual fantasies. Now, I feel bad for Portia. She keeps trying to make amends, but she gets the Candy thing thrown in her face, so I'm over that. Now, no one can hold Portia to the fire for that incident except Candy. But because Candy is the type of person who is very passive and allows other people to fight her battles, Candy's not going to say anything. And I feel like Candy does not have to. But it would be nice if Candy told everybody, whenever you're getting into an argument with Portia, do not bring up my situation with me and Portia up. Don't bring my name up. Don't bring my name into it, because nobody can hold Portia's feet to the fire for that but me, because the situation affected me. I feel like if Candy were to say that, that would kind of squash Portia's it would stop the other girls from trying to use that as ammunition. But like I said, Candy doesn't have to do that, but I feel like it would be beneficial if she does. Now, Portia decides that she wants to leave, and she talks to Nene about it, and Nene identifies with Portia being the person that people all kind of blamed for their issues back in season 7. Nene feels that Portia should publicly own up to everything with Candy so that the girls can stop using it as ammunition. I do feel like Nene's suggestion would help ease the tension between Portia and the other girls. However, Portia does not necessarily owe anything to the other girls, and I think that's where the disconnect is. Now, Portia feels like you know, the approach that Nene suggested wouldn't necessarily help. But she feels like Nene and Portia are kind of bonding. That's how Nene says bonding. They're bonding, and you know, kind of getting things back on track after being in disagreement this entire season. The girls are getting ready to leave and go to the hotel, but Portia is not going with them. She leaves early, and interestingly enough, I think she made the right choice based on what we saw in the upcoming preview. So next time on Real Housewives of Atlanta, we see that there is a little like impromptu photo shoot in Barcelona with the girls. Cynthia wants to get baptized, but it looks like a hoe bath. I don't know what the deal is with that, but okay. Tyrone, Nene, and Sheree have a awkward triangle, and we get to hear a little bit more about that. And something is happening in Barcelona, something that's making the ladies feel unsafe, and that's why I was saying that, you know, it was good on Portia for deciding to leave early. And next week looks like it's going to be a filler episode. Hopefully not, but this episode was kind of full of drama. It was interesting. The only thing I will say that I was disappointed in is that we had all heard that Portia had done something in Barcelona and ended up leaving Barcelona early. So I was expecting there to be like an actual physical altercation. So I was a little bit underwhelmed with what actually happened and the real reason that Portia left. And I feel like it was over sensationalized to get us to watch this season. But moving on, thank you guys for watching. Peace out, home slices.